Manic and Chill, we are live. Better late than never. Shane's still recovering from being a little under the weather, but it is Wednesday, November 19th. Shane, we are in between week 11 and week 12. Half hour late, but we are here just to talk the temperature, the pulse, whatever you want to call it. We had the thumbnail with Shane with a thermometer in his mouth, and then I said, Shane, did you have a fever? And he said, no, I didn't have a fever. So the thermometer didn't really work, but we're going to talk Dynasty Temperature on a lot of your favorite players tonight. We'll talk some reactions from this past week since we did not get to do a show last week. We had that mid-season mayhem. People loved that. If you didn't watch it, probably still some of the relevant parts from it if you want to tune back in. But it's been 2 weeks, Shane. How you feeling? I know you're still recovering, but you're here. So how's it going?
No, I mean, it's good you used a thermometer. Thermometer, not a thermostat. You don't stick thermostats in people. But no, actually, I was unfortunately unable to keep things down. And everything was just spent a lot of time with my head in a toilet or a trash can, especially Sunday night watching the Eagles game is when it first hit me. So I didn't know if it was the offense or what, but it wasn't just the offense because it continued the next day. So I'm a little tired, a little worn down, but yeah, I haven't done anything since since Friday. So it's time to get back on the horse.
Any trades?
I don't think so. I don't remember making any.
You must have been really sick to not do any trades.
I got to be honest with you. I opened up the, what do you call that? I opened up the Sleeper app and I started looking at the leagues and I went, I don't care. I don't. And this was yesterday, obviously, not today. What's today? Wednesday? I don't even know what day it is. But yeah, Monday, I started to look at it and, to figure out what I needed for my games and just didn't give a shit. Then Tuesday, I woke up and I looked at the standings and still didn't give a shit. And then today, I realized I got to make some moves. So I started caring again. That's what I got to do.
All right. Well, we'll get some Dynasty Temperature on some players. Quick plug. If you did not watch it, we did the Trinity show earlier this week. Got some exciting stuff coming on the new and improved DD Fantasy Football website that'll be coming pretty soon. I've got a sneak peek look at that, but follow the Trinity. We only have 3 weeks left in the regular season. There's a lot of players that are in situations right now where the situations are not great, Shane. The players are healthy, but you're not excited to play them going forward because their situations are so poor. Cough, cough. One of those is probably the Raiders. Might be the most rudderless team right now. They have a coach, OC, that should be gone because they're playing Tyler Lockett over the rookie receivers that they drafted. They're rolling out Geno Smith. Now, they don't even have like a young quarterback to roll out there, but that's one of those teams where you don't feel like they have a lot of fight remaining in them for the rest of the year. Would that be fair to say?
They quit. There was a couple plays they quit. They quit on that when George Pickens broke the dude's ankle. I don't know if the other dude body just left. His soul left his body watching him score. Like he just completely gave up. Like there's nothing.
The
left.
Cowboys were taking a knee with 2:40 left in the game. And then the Raiders got the ball back after the Cowboys needed on downs and gave it back to him. And then the Raiders took a knee, even though they were down. That's just the epitome of we're not even trying. We don't care about prop bets, gambling, fantasy, nothing. Let's just end the game. Put everyone out of their misery. I can't imagine that it changes the weeks following this.
I was happy I was laid up at that point. I had finally made it back to wherever they see you in the hospital place, and I had an IV dripping into me and no television. So I was good. I didn't get to see that, but yeah. No, dude, I mean, for what I watched, it was terrible. Ashton Genty is probably in the worst imaginable situation of any top 10 running back pick we've ever seen in our lives. Even the Giants, remember when they drafted Saquon years and years ago, they were a terrible team, but they were still able to, he was still able to produce. That offensive line obviously wasn't as bad as this Raiders offense. It's horrendous, bro.
Well, Shane, speaking of teams, the Cardinals went down 35-0 and decided to treat Michael Wilson like he's the greatest receiver ever. And I know you weren't around on Sunday in the game day chat, but it was just, dude, Marvin Harrison would never have a game like that, right? Where he went 15 for 185. I mean, can you just imagine if that was Marv?
that was the single highest for the season, right?
Most yards for the season, 18 targets. I think that was the third highest on the season. Trey McBride still had a good game. I mean, Jacoby Brissett just throw. I mean,
and you got, this is what I love about the Cardinals. They've got no shot and they don't care. We're going to keep throwing. We're going to keep throwing because I'm not really sure why, but we're just going to keep doing it. I'd much rather have a team do that than whatever it is the Raiders do.
Well, they are actually, I put this out in the Discord. It's not something I'll do every single week, but the Cardinals are up to 5th in the offensive environment score. They have just abandoned the run, probably because every running back they have dies at some point during a game. But they've abandoned the run. They're 6th in pass rate. So forget about when they're way behind. Of course they're going to pass. But even when they're not, they're still 6th in the league in neutral pass rate. Since Jacoby Brissett took over, they're top 15 in passing efficiency. So they're not top of the league, but they're certainly not killing you, which a lot of times you see that with the backup quarterback. And they are 2nd in the league in plays run. Now, having a billion plays this past week helped, but still they're 2nd in the league in plays run. Like, it is I don't know if you've checked the Trinity for the Cardinals this week, Shane. I've never seen anything like it. They had 3 guys that were so far above the line and 2 guys that were used like wide receiver 1s or tight end 1s overall.
Was that Greg Dortch? Was he the 3rd?
Greg Dortch, but okay. You still had, you know how you see the players that go way above the line and they have good usage? They had 2 of those guys. And normally you have to have a really good quarterback supporting that. So someone asked me yesterday, would you trade a 3rd for Jacoby Brissett on a rebuilding team? And I go, I think I would, because I think there's residual value of just having a guy like that on your roster, even if you're not using him for the rest of the season. Like, I want to carry some of these backups going into the offseason. But I want to ask you, because of that, if you have any thoughts, then we'll get into the point. I had a beautiful transition, but I want your thoughts on Jacoby.
No, just so we're, me and you are guilty of this as anyone, but we're always like, sell these quarterbacks for anything you get, sell these quarterbacks for anything you can get, right? And then the next season comes and Joe Flacco's out there, Jacoby Brissett's out there, Aaron Rodgers is out there, or I don't know, that name's like 3 of the big ones this year. And
Mac Jones, Marcus Mariota.
And you would do anything to get those dudes on your roster at that point, right? Like, I traded a 2nd round pick for Jacoby Brissett several weeks ago. It's worked out well, but it wasn't a great process. You know, it would have been good process. The Jacoby Brissett I had on my roster last year, maybe I don't move him, or more to a point, someone that would have given me a reason to, Joe Flacco, you know what I mean? Maybe I should have held on to someone like him. It makes me wonder sometimes, like, should I really just offload all those dudes, or should I just hold on to some of them? Like, do I really need another 3rd round pick?
Well, let's talk through it, because I do think there's times and places during the season where you would do that, right? Earlier in the year, when maybe you need assets for later on in the year, I could live with doing it. Situations where I already have a build where I have a ton of backup quarterbacks, I can trade one away. A league where we did a roster review a couple weeks ago, I don't know if you remember it, but it was one that had really shallow rosters. It's only like 23-man rosters or something like that. Well, backup quarterbacks weren't as valuable there because, sure, the starters that were starting weekly were not available because they got picked up. But you know what was available? Most of the backups that weren't starting. So I can comfortably slide one of those in if I trade one away. But I think with these teams where, it's a 12 by 11 or 12 by 12 and it's 30-man rosters and you're sitting there looking for your cuts in the offseason, why are you cutting Drew Lock? Why are you cutting these backups that, as long as they're a backup next year, a lot of these quarterbacks this year are starting just because of luck, right? Like, they were the guy behind the guy that got injured. So it isn't that they're not all good. We've seen Cooper Rush, awful. We've seen Jake Browning, awful. Like, these guys weren't good to start. But you know who's been great to start? If you started him, Davis Mills. Did you know he's the quarterback 2 over the last 2 weeks? Who would have thought that? Before the year, you would not have looked at the Texans' offensive line and Davis Mills and said, man, if he gets in there, he's going to outscore Patrick Mahomes, right? Well, he has. So that kind of gives you the idea that there's a wide variance when it comes to these backups. But I think the key is, as we get closer to the offseason, you don't just give them away because they're not going to be useful after 2 more weeks. Think about the residual value they have on your team next year and the year after and the year after, especially if you're building a team and you only have like 1 locked in starting quarterback, or your second starting quarterback's like Matt Stafford. And like, sure, he's doing great now, but I don't know how long he lasts into the future. Like, if you have a build that you're more likely, and this is a ballpark because we're still 9 months or more away from the next game in 2026. But if you have one of these rosters where you're like, man, I may need some backups next year because I don't really have a QB2, or I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get one at a reasonable value in this league, lean into it. Like, I'm not giving quarterbacks away for thirds, even if that's what they're probably worth to buy a spot starter to, because I see the value higher than that on my own roster, even if I'm not using it right now. Does that make sense? Like, just don't give them away, because there's more than just what they're doing this week or next week. Like, let's use Davis Mills, for example. Obviously, he's been good, right? He's been good when you started him. Would you sell Davis Mills for a third on a league where it's 32-man rosters? You're muted.
Jesus. Can't just pathetic. Just poor work ethic there.
Rookie mistake. Shane's first stream. Forgive him.
Let me look at Davis Mills' contract, right? Like, that dude has to be a free agent, right?
He is going to be back with the Texans.
He's going to be all right. You know what? Whatever. I don't care. He's a spot
because
starter.
You know what? Here's the beauty about Davis Mills. You know what these last couple games have probably shown? That it makes sense for the Texans to keep him in the same spot that he is. And he probably is like, you know what? This is probably a good fit for me. I'm behind a guy that, unless he thinks he can go out and get a bigger contract and start, he's probably in a pretty good spot for his career. You know what I mean? Like, he's just, he signs for 2 more years in Houston at, I don't know, good backups usually make somewhere between like 4 and 7 million, 8 million, something like that. He's probably worth 5 million, 6 million a year for a couple years. Maybe they want to go cheaper, but if he locks into that type of role, he's probably going to start 2 or 3 more times over the next couple of years. And guess what? You already have that value built into your roster. If you trade him away for a third, you're kind of giving away all that potential equity away for nothing. You're giving it away for the weekly price of he's not a starter. Like, who cares? You know who's a starter? Michael Penix is technically a starter, Shane. I want to transition to him.
Womp, womp.
A third torn ACL in a matter of 7 seasons. The second time on this knee. He already wasn't mobile. I don't know if you saw the wording from the Adam Schefter tweet, but it was, he's out at least 9 months. Did you see that?
No.
It was not. Maybe he'll be back in, he's out for 9 months. The word was subtle, but it was at least 9 months. So where are you at on Michael Penix? We talked about him in the Discord. Like, he hasn't been good for fantasy. He's a little shaky for real football. And now he's out all year with a team that already traded their first, already has an expensive backup quarterback, which means they're probably not going to be in the market to sign a $10 million backup. What do you do with Michael Penix? How panicked are you? Like, what's the line?
I'm not panicked at all, because I knew he was a trash receptacle the entire time.
Okay. You might have. But what about the people that were like, he's my QB2, he's a locked-in starter, he's on a rookie deal, he has Drake London and Bijan and Kyle Pitt. Like, what is the new line? How are you maneuvering now that everybody knows he's out for the year?
Can you go get Jacoby Brissett for next year? Can you go get someone brought up Bryce Young here? Hillbillies bring up Bryce Young. I won't read the cursing because that's unacceptable. But Bryce Young going to finish strong and try to lure us in drafting again, only to hump us. That's correct. He is.
Well, let me ask you this, because this is the line. Right now, I'm assuming you would clearly take Tua and Bryce Young over Michael Penix, and it's not even close.
Yes, because Penix 9 months. I'm not great with math, right? So that puts us to August of next year. That's if everything goes well. But also, he's never been good in the NFL anyway. So even if he comes back at his full capability, he's coming back as the QB 27. Is that what he was? Is that what he's been?
He already was below the QB2 line. He was only higher because he was locked in as a quote unquote starter on a rookie deal that doesn't suck.
Right.
But that was his selling point. It wasn't, he has a lot of upside. It wasn't, oh, wait till they draft him some weapons. He already has good weapons this year. Like, kind of felt like he was what he was. He was already going down that Tua Bryce Young track, and now he's injured where those guys aren't. And if that was already the line, and maybe he was a little higher than those guys because he didn't have as much stink, but now he has way more stink. And then there's questions about what his future looks like. Like Tyler Shuck or Michael Penix. Who would you
that's not even close. Tyler Shuck.
But because he's alive today, right?
He's alive today. I've seen more upside out of Tyler Shuck in 2 games than I've seen out of Michael Penix in an entire NFL career. Just there was never a ceiling with him to be had. There was a hope for a floor, and the hope for the floor was like high-end QB2. You didn't get that. You got, what was he last year? And I was spot on. He's QB 28 this year. So that's basically what you got. You've got a QB3, which, I mean, if it's a triflex, is that what you call them when you can start 3 quarterbacks? In the leagues that you can start 3 quarterbacks, sure, I guess it makes sense. But outside of that, like he serves no purpose. He's one of those guys, and Bryce Young is I thought of this. He's one of those guys that, and he's giving you 3 top 10 weeks, right? Not elite weeks, but he gave you 3 top 10 weeks this year. He's that type of guy. You put him in after that, after his 24-point week 1, and he gives you 5.3 points. Or you put him in after his week 12, his QB 12 finish, when he scored 19.5 points, and he gives you a QB 20 week. Or you go ahead and put him in after his week 9 week, when he was a QB 11 again, and then he comes back out and gives you the QB 20 week. Like, he's the worst of all worlds, because I never want to start him. He gives me a reason to think that I might be able to start him, but I shouldn't, because I should know from past history that he's just going to do the same thing that he always does, just like Bryce Young. When Bryce Young goes out there and throws for 457 yards and breaks the Panthers record, even though he had scored less than 7 fantasy points combined the 2 weeks prior. So if you can get a Shuck, if you can get a Jacoby Brissett, if you can get Tua, if you can get Marcus Mariota plus, if you can get
Mac Jones easily for him, even though he's not starting, you'd rather have Mac Jones?
I'd rather have Mac Jones, because at least I know if Mac Jones starts, I can start him. I don't know when I can start Michael Penix when he starts.
He was at that line of demarcation. He was below it, to where if I just told you every week you would have your choice of whatever backup is starting and you didn't have to pay anything to get him on your roster, you'd be willing to take that equivalent to Michael Penix, right? The only thing he was offering you was stability. Like, he's going to give me streamable quarterback production every week, and I know he's going to be the starter. But if I just told you every week you can pick this week's Tyrod Taylor or Marcus Mariota, whoever it is, like, you would take that cumulative quarterback that you were pulling off your bench over Michael Penix, or equivalent to Michael Penix. And those are just access to having those guys around. Sometimes if you don't have them, you have to go buy them. But that's the level that he's at. Like, his whole value was that he was stable. He was a starter. He was going to be what he is. Maybe you get a little bit of a better outcome next year, but like, he was probably right on that cut line where Bryce Young has lived for the last year, where Tua has been since their offense declined. Like, he was already there, and now he's not available. So it's like, you almost have to treat him like a backup quarterback, don't you? Like, he's just a backup. He's not. I would be willing to buy Michael Penix for a third, because then you're like buying him in the range where he's just a backup. But like,
okay,
that's about what it is. That's all.
So then he's your streamer. He's your, Joe Flacco got replaced by Joe Burrow
because
he's back.
I don't expect him to be a starter again. I'll just collect him on my bench. Like, you know who I'm willing to collect now? Justin Fields, because he's finally at that price. You know, when he starts, Shane, I don't know where it'll be, when it'll be, but when he does, I can play him. That's worth a third. If you're telling me over the next 3 years, I get to start Justin Fields 4 times, and I know when those are, and he's on my team, and I just put him in, hopefully I have a need that week, I'd pay a third for that. That's kind of where Penix is at, but he's probably not even as good on a weekly basis as a lot of these other guys we're talking about.
Well, no, because I mean, I'm just looking at Justin Fields. He's giving you a QB2, QB4, QB7 weeks, QB12, and a QB5 week. Now, from a real football perspective, he's been absolutely god awful. How do you? Anyways, he had a game with 27.
But you know what? For real football, all we care about is next year's team that's 1-8, and they have to put Justin Fields in for a game. You go, okay, I can work with this for that week. But that's what you're buying for. When a quarterback goes to that price, I'm willing to collect them. That's why the floor for what I'd be willing to sell is higher when we were talking earlier about Jacoby Brissett or those types. But I think we've kind of learned our lesson. Like, if you're rolling out Bryce Young or Tua or Trevor Lawrence, they'll give you the occasional good game. But you've kind of accepted that you're already at that line. And if you're willing to go to the uncomfortable and go, you know what, I can just roll with the culmination of, hey, maybe this week I get Mason Rudolph. Maybe next week I get Jarrett Stidham or Josh Dobbs or whoever it is. Like, there's some value in just having enough of those guys around. When you have that build, I'll lean into it. So any other thoughts on Michael Penix or the weapons or anything before we move on?
No, I mean, how do you? It just you're just not very good, right? I mean, if you have Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Bijan Robinson, and you can't get above, I don't know, QB 20 or whatever it is. But outside of that, I mean, it's almost better not having those dudes on your roster. Not as your QB2 ever, because again, you get sucked into the trap of, okay, let me play them because they had a good week. You might have to be more disciplined when you have guys like that on your roster. Like, all right, it's been 2 straight weeks. How about now I can trust them? Because you can't trust them after one game. That's been shown, which is why, like Bryce Young, I'm just going to keep coming back to that little monster. That's why I'm not sticking him in here this week, because I can it won't happen, but he's going to give you 6 fantasy points again after he comes off of a 30-40 point week, whatever it is that he did last week.
So JP Tay asks, what the hell do I do with Anthony Richardson? Shane, I'd rather have Anthony Richardson than Michael Penix, because at least there's a prayer that he goes somewhere sooner. And maybe I've seen Anthony Richardson in like 5 games before. Be good for fantasy. You know what I mean? But that's the line. Like, what do you do with Anthony Richardson? He's not your QB3. You know what he is? He's in your group of backups that you have on your team. He's not a QB3 any more than if you have 10 quarterbacks on your team, you know what Anthony Richardson is? Your QB10. He's your QB3 and he's your QB10. You just have a bunch of backups. So that's where Richardson is. Now, I do think if you want to get creative, you can start ranking these guys. Like, would you take Richardson over Penix right now? If you get Richardson in a third, I would take that over Penix. Like, that seems like a deal
I got
you
the
could
third
send.
Too. Yeah.
Yeah, well, because I think people still, at least for now, still view Penix as he's a starter. Anytime there's an ACL injury, people do always cling on to the fact, well, in 9 months, he'll be back and he'll be fine. They don't think about, well, Shane, what if this is his 3rd ACL and they realize, like, his knees aren't in that great a shape? Or it takes him a little longer to recover from this one. Or, like, there's a lot that can go wrong before he's just back on the field starting. But I do think there's still some value of he's the starter. They're going to go back to him when he gets healthy. I think you can get some creative deals if you're willing to send him. You just can't be fishing in the waters of he's a locked and loaded starter. He's not worth 2 seconds. You know what I mean? You got to go lower than that, and I think you can get some creative deals.
I wonder if you could get a second. I won't give up a second, but if you had a third,
spam it.
Yeah,
be creative.
Yeah.
The goal would be getting the second, right? Even if you have to add something else, right?
Yeah, I did, and I actually traded not for him, but he was part of a trade, and I just took him in another trade where, continuing disappointment where I traded for AJ Brown 2 weeks ago, which has not gone well for me. That hasn't gone well either.
So let's get the temperature on a few other quarterbacks before we move on to other positions. So this year. And when I say temperature, we're just going to get some raw thoughts. If you have some data or you have any opinions, you can throw those out there. But just raw thoughts on a few of these players right now. So we'll start with a quarterback that is not quite in the Michael Penix range, but he's dealt with a lot of injuries. He's actually right below Michael Penix currently in points per game this year. What the hell do you do with J.J. McCarthy, Shane? The steam is starting to come off of him a lot, to where I don't know what it was. I think it was these last 2 weeks where it was ugly, but the Vikings also lost a game that they might have been able to win, but then they ended up losing. There's not very high sentiment right now on JJ McCarthy. What are you doing?
Let's see. My dude passed. Wasn't accuracy something he was supposed to be good at? Like, wasn't he supposed to be at least an accurate quarterback? I at least thought he was. I know he wasn't completing passes in the 55.5 range or whatever it is for the season. I never really liked JJ McCarthy, only because we never saw him have to do it in college. We never saw him ever have to carry a team on his back in college, not once.
He has the lowest completion percentage in the league of quarterbacks that have thrown more than 50 passes. In fact, nobody has a lower one on more than 6 attempts. The guys this year with lower completion percentages than him, I'm going to give you these names. You ready?
Yes.
The guys with lower completion percentages than him, even in small sample sizes, Anthony Richardson, Trey Lance, and Mitch Trubisky. So those are not the names where you go, oh yeah, I can see how he completes more passes than they do. But he is at 53% and he's averaging 27 pass attempts a game. So they're not letting him throw.
Right.
When he throws, he's only completing about half of them. His passing efficiency is at the very, very bottom of the league. So it's not just, I think, J.J. McCarthy being bad. I think people are magnifying how quickly it has gone from the what could be to he's already bad, because, Shane, he's ruining the entire offense. He's ruining basically everybody on the offense. He's dragging them down with him. So what's your, like right now, is there anything actionable given that he's still on a rookie deal? He's only 5 starts into his career. Like, you can probably get out before the ship goes completely underwater. What's the move? What are you doing?
I mean, you can always get out for something, but is that something going to be enough to satisfy what you want? Like, if you can get a second round pick, are you just doing it? Are you just moving off of them based off of the quarterbacks you just named? Right. I'd love to see the true media data to see what types of routes his wide receivers are running. Because are they running the most intricate, like the ADOT on those? Are they like 40 yards a pass? Is that why he can't complete any passes? I would like to see what those routes are, but there's still people that believe in him, right? You see it on Twitter. People still believe that he's going to be good, and they're going to tell you, well, he's really basically a rookie. He's with KOC, so they'll figure it out. So there's really not a reason to panic. I would move him for just about any second. If I could get a second for him, he'd be gone. I don't think you could get a second for him, though, to be quite
interesting.
honest.
I think you can get a second. I think you're underselling somebody that sees an opportunity to get a young quarterback for a single second. I think you can probably do that. You wouldn't ask for anything more. I mean, I know you always ask for a little bit more, but like truly, what would you be comfortable with? Second and what?
Second and third. Second and a third. Okay. Second and Michael Penix. I do want to look up and just see if there's any trades in the trade database.
So this is per SIS, so I don't have True Media, but I have SIS. So quarterbacks that have thrown more than 100 pass attempts this year, he's at 140, I believe. J.J. McCarthy leads the league in average throw depth.
Okay.
So he's at 9.6 yards per attempt. The next highest is Sam Darnold at 8.6. And so you know how the next two, actually, Jalen Hurts and Sam Darnold. Then you have Jackson Dart. Daniel Jones is up there. There's a theme with these offenses. They are meant to be low volume, efficient, down the field throwers. Like, that feels like what they're trying to do with McCarthy. But when you're only completing 53% of your passes, there's just not a lot of pie to go around, right? Like, if he's only throwing it 28 times a game, and let's say he has a good game and he completes 60%. Dude, that's only like 19 targets or attempts that are completed that are going to TJ Hawkinson, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and the running backs. And maybe you hit Jalen Naylor for 1 or 2 or Josh Oliver for, like, all of a sudden that volume disappears very quickly. Like, it's concerning the way they're playing. So I don't know if you have any thoughts, but that's the breakdown. I can see why you're frustrated.
I would wonder why they wouldn't just give him some easy button passes. Well, why does everything? I mean, I understand that's how you want to play the offense, but at some point you have to adjust. You have to adjust to who your quarterback is. What are you watching? Kentucky?
No, I'm looking at this. No, that was last night. Kentucky got pounded anyway. On target throw percentage, Shane. Where do you think J.J. McCarthy ranks in quarterbacks that have thrown more than 100 attempts?
42nd.
I haven't counted, but let's just say Dylan Gabriel is at the very bottom at 66.3% of his throws are on target. That's not good. That's every third throw is off target. JJ McCarthy is at 59%. So he's not only last, but he's behind Dylan Gabriel by 7%. And it's just rough, man.
So I like chasing breakers, right? So this is probably what you should be doing. You should hope that he has a strong closeout of the season, and then you get a bounce back like you did with Bryce Young. I don't remember having a period to sell Michael Penix, but I definitely remember the optimism around Bryce Young after he did well in 3 or 4 games last year. There was definitely like an optimism to him, like, okay, he's going to be fine. And then if that does happen, then you get rid of him. I don't know. They're not going to change their offense to suit him apparently. Which I don't know. You probably should scheme your offenses around your players, not the other way around. And if you want to work in obviously your scheme, but you should probably find some things that they're good at and try to accentuate them. But that doesn't seem to be the case there. Their offensive line's bad. Okay.
It's not great, but I think a lot of times we magnify bad offensive lines when everything around it looks bad. We just blame the line. There's some bad lines out there that there's at least production. Do you know what I mean? Like somebody's doing something to work around the bad line. I like this comment though. This goes into a deeper conversation. Probably we're not going to have on this show because I want to get to some more players. But I don't believe in JJ McCarthy. But if you do, this is an opportunity to show conviction. Is the new edge actually having conviction on certain players and buying, holding through the lows? Could be the highs as well. But we talk a lot about how reactionary things are. We come on here every week and we talk about how bad or good things were. And we go, oh, yeah, go buy more of this player that just smashed or go sell this player. He looks bad. Isn't this kind of an edge, though? If you pick your spots across your leagues, across the season to have conviction when the market's going the other way. You know what? I like JJ McCarthy, so I'm going to buy every share I can for a second. I'm going to get my percentages up to 30% JJ McCarthy, and then I better be right. But if you are, it feels like you can magnify your profit. Like, what do you think about this conviction? I think this is a good topic.
I mean, it depends on what you're paying, though, right? Because are you convicted on, if you were that convicted on Anthony Richardson after his rookie season, how's that going for you? You know?
Well, let's say you're finding the Shane in every league and seeing if they'll sell him for a second and a fourth. And then that's your conviction. Like you're going to the person that's panicking. They're looking for the stop loss price. They're looking for the, man, I need to get out before he has two more bad games. And then their people are treating him like he's Bryce Young. You know what I mean? That kind of feels like the time to move is when there's still that range of there's somebody in your league going, you know what? I'll buy low. You know it's over when I have Bryce Young before this past week. There was nobody buying.
No.
There was nobody buying at anything above he's a backup quarterback price. And at that point, you might as well keep him. You know what I mean? You don't want it to get to there because then there are no buyers. There is no market at all. You're just forced to hold him through all of this, whether he's a starter, backup, etc. So I think it's a good topic.
At J Paytay, that's probably not how you pronounce that anyway. Hindsight is great, but people forget how bad Josh Allen looked in his first few years. I'm not saying JJ will be that, but it's been 5 games for real. So this goes to the whole conviction part though, right? So if I never liked JJ McCarthy, I've never liked him. So now I have some confirmation bias as to why I still don't like him, because he's been absolutely brutal in 5 games. He's been terrible. He's been the worst quarterback, one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. Now, if I have conviction the other way and I was buying him because I had conviction on him, well, obviously I'd be telling myself a different story. I would be saying, guys, it's only been 5 games. Guys, the reason his completion percentage is so low is because, you named, he has the highest ADOT in the league. You could find reasons as to if you wanted to, as far as why you would still buy into him. And that's just based on the conviction that you have. I never liked him. So if I never liked him and never saw any reason for him to go as high as he did in rookie drafts or in the NFL draft, then when he doesn't do well, I'm not going to be apt to buy. You can definitely make that choice to be convicted on a player and go all in on him. And let's say it costs you seconds. It probably costs you a second and a third to get JJ McCarthy. You could probably get him in a couple leagues with that. I would just say that you don't need to do it in every league. You 5 is enough. You know what I mean? Depending on how many leagues you're in. Like maybe raise your rostership by 10%. There's no need to go 70%. That's my thought. Unless he's your QB 3 or 4. And your plans aren't really built around him ever coming through as a QB1 for you. It's more, if he does, great, then I have extra assets.
The catchable throw percentage. So it's a little different than the on-target throw percentage, like what targets are even catchable. He is last in the league at only 77%. So that just tells you like a quarter of his passes are just, they're giving nobody a chance. Michael Penix is actually second lowest. So Michael Penix is not much better than JJ McCarthy in any of these. And now he's out for the year. So, yeah, I think the thing with JJ is this is the time to get overexposed if you have some conviction. You can't. I've seen a lot of dynasty players come in and they have conviction too often, and then they overexpose to something that they probably shouldn't have bet on over and over. You don't want to bet on every quarterback that had pedigree that you can buy low when you're getting them for a second and a third, right? Like, how many failed carcasses are there that are out there where you can go, I probably shouldn't have bought Zach Wilson when he was low. You know what I mean? I probably shouldn't have bought Anthony Richardson. Like, you don't want to always have conviction and buy low, because then you get spread too thin. You don't have a lot of assets that you can move. But I like it if you're in on them. Talk about another one. What about Cameron Ward? See, that's one that's been worse than JJ McCarthy, believe it or not.
But you're gonna give me this. But he's actually started to look better since they fired his
gotten a little
coach,
better.
Which is,
but there isn't this. Here's the thing: the difference between the two is that there was no stink on JJ McCarthy because people thought he would be inserted into a situation and just be Sam Darnold from last year, be Kirk Cousins from the year before. But that's not true. And so I think it's getting magnified how bad JJ has been because he's not those guys. Cam Ward, it still feels like every week I read a tweet where it's like, oh, well, he looked better this week. Just wait till he gets something around him and he'll be great. Like, nothing is his fault. And maybe that's true, but there's already a built-in excuse for Ward. So he's not getting hated on nearly like McCarthy has.
Yeah, great's a strong word. Great's a strong word. I am a big Cam Ward guy. I had tons of him coming into the season. And you know what? I still have tons of them because I couldn't sell them right now if my life depended on it. So if he does bounce back.
But that's not true. You could probably sell him for a second, but you probably don't want to because maybe you have a little more conviction on him than JJ McCarthy, right?
Right. But I'll tell you what, even if I could get McCarthy there's probably a couple leagues though. If I could get McCarthy for a second, I would do it in a few leagues just to have some of them. Because look, how many times have we been wrong on players?
10 minutes ago, Shane's like, I'd take a second. Now Shane's out there. He's sending seconds for McCarthy.
Because how many leagues am I in? I'm in 33 leagues, right?
Yes.
So one thing I've learned is that just because I think I'm right doesn't mean I'm going to be right 100% of the time.
You don't want 35% Kyler when he goes down the shitter, right? Like, you don't need to have that much on a convicted bet.
Right. Like, mix it up a little bit. It's okay. You know what I mean? If I end up with 3 JJ McCarthys across my roster, and I'll be very, very specific about it. If I end up with 3 of them, one of those leagues where I have extra seconds, sure. Let's go crazy. Here's a couple seconds. You can give me McCarthy. And if he works out, great. But back to Cam Ward, I know it sounds like excuse making, but his head coach is one of the worst offensive minds in all of football. Like, the dude was just a blockhead, and his best weapon was Chimere DK. Is that his best weapon? Alec Iomanner. These are what, 5th and 7th round wide receivers. You can't go to bat with that. Like, those dudes, they've been fine. Chimere DK and Alec Iomanner. Those are the type of dudes that should be a wide receiver 3 and 4 or 5 on your roster. They shouldn't be your wide receiver 1 and 2. Like, it's just, he hasn't been good. And I will say he's done this multiple times where he's dropped back to pass and the ball just skirts out, which is not a good look. And watching football with my kids, and they're like, that's not supposed to happen, right? And I'm like, no, that's not supposed to happen.
You're selling them short, Shane. Those were 4th round picks. DK,
4th round
manner.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind. They
Maybe one of them.
1s and 2s.
Well, one of them will surround Cam Ward for the next couple of years as a decent weapon.
Right. But chasing breakers, yeah, he has a narrative. He does. He's going to get a new coach. They're going to have to sign someone or draft a wide receiver. That goes without saying, right? They're probably going to get one of Mekhi Lemon. Let's just say they add Mekhi Lemon there and they get Kevin Patullo as the head coach, because apparently he's getting some buzz according to Tom Pelissero. What? Anyway, he gets to whoever the offensive genius of the summer is, and then they add Mekhi Lemon to that roster. Yes, Hillbillies, we got it.
I think they go. Right? I think they probably go defense. Brian Flores, maybe.
No, you can't. You can't.
They just had an offensive coach.
No, they didn't. They had someone that was allegedly an offensive coach that should have never been there.
Okay, so you think they go offense then?
You got it. Look. You just drafted a rookie quarterback last year. You can't turn around and get
what about a defensive guy like Dan Quinn when he went to Washington, but he brought in an offensive guru that has
Cliff Cliff Kingsbury was definitely not guru status.
I don't want
Anymore.
to say
So Mike
guru,
McDaniel.
but he had a plan. It wasn't on the defensive guy to figure out. I mean, that can work too. I would rather have an offensive coach, but there's not a lot of great offensive minds out there right now that are vying for head coaching jobs. Like I'm not saying they're not as good as Callahan, but who knows? We'll see.
Yeah. I forget what the question was.
There's no question. We're just talking about Cam Ward. You're obviously higher on Cam Ward.
I am. And again, that goes, but you know what that goes back to? Because I had conviction on one player as opposed to the other. Because if I just look, you gave me the blind taste test, they both suck and I don't want either of them. But because I'm convicted on one of them, or at least had conviction on one of them coming in, I'm obviously going to be,
there's one.
Why is everyone Mike McCarthy? This is Mike McCarthy from Green Bay, right? Am I missing? Is this a different Mike McCarthy?
You know what? I think it's because he's probably the guy that's available, that's willing to go pretty much anywhere, that has a history of coming in, and
his name's been out there.
He just did it in Dallas. He came in and I don't want to say he stabilized them to what they were, but you know, he did his job. I'm not saying it's optimal, but I think it could be worse. It could be worse for a young quarterback.
No, that's fine. I mean, Dak was fine with him, right?
Yep.
Right. So yeah, I'm fine with Mike McCarthy going there. It's just funny because like his name has popped up like in four or five different spots this week. Well, not this week. I didn't listen to anything last week when I was listening to NFL podcasts talking about new coaches next year.
Pulse on a few more QBs before we go. Anybody that comes to mind for you that you're kind of thinking that you maybe have a little bit of a different take than the masses? Names?
No, I don't think it's a different take, but I would say that, you know, usually I'm go green, but I would say that there's reasons to be concerned about Jalen Hurts.
Okay. Yeah, talk about it. What is your take on all of this? There's stuff going on in the locker room and they want to maybe move on. I don't buy any of that, but you're the Eagles fan. We haven't really talked about it. What do you think?
No, so I think people talk, they like to talk about the loud, noisy things that don't really matter. And I guarantee you that there's nothing going on there. But there are obvious limitations to his game, right? Like he is not a timing quarterback, which is pretty important. You should be able to pass with some kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Anticipation. He can't do that. It's not his thing. Unless it's a 60-yard bomb somehow. I don't know how he can do that, but he can't throw an 8-yard out, whatever, on time. But it is what it is. The tush push is, I tweeted this last night. The tush push doesn't even need to go away. It's just getting stopped now. I looked up on Summer Sports, you know, their summer brain thing. I love that thing. And the tush push, it was at like 90% first year they ran it. It dipped to 83, got back up to like 85. It's at 60% this year, 60%. And teams are just stopping it.
Unless you're Mark Andrews and he runs the fake and then runs the sweep for the touchdown. I mean, that's the next evolution is faking it and actually being willing to do it.
They did that once. The Eagles have done that once. They've never innovated the play after that. So it's a lot of different little things, right? The offensive line is not as good. So maybe that's why the tush push doesn't work. He doesn't run. He's never been, I don't know if he's ever been fast, but he hasn't been fast for the last couple years. So a lot of his rushing production, I don't want to say production, but a lot of those fantasy points you get are off those first downs that he gets, the rushing first downs. And a lot of those come from the tush push, because you'll look up a lot of games and he'll have 7 for 37 with a long of 20. And then everything else is like 2 yards. Man, my mouth is so dry. Anyway.
I saw comments about Kyler. I don't think we have any Kyler takes. Like, we would buy Kyler, but he will get another chance.
Kyler, and I did a Shane says as soon as he got benched or soft benched and then placed on the IR, whatever it was, is I'm buying Kyler. I absolutely have no concerns that Kyler is going to be a starter again in the league. Will he be an elite quarterback in the league? Probably not, but I don't see why he can't be a low-end QB1, high-end QB2.
So here's an interesting one that I didn't really think of, but I actually sold Michael Penix in a deal for him this morning. And I feel good about it because it was before the ACL announcement. So once that came out, I would have been able to get this deal done. Sam Darnold. And Sam Darnold has had a great year, right?
Mm-hmm.
But not great for fantasy.
No.
Doesn't really run. very low volume, operating very much like we were talking about earlier, where it's like, let's minimize the amount of attempts, but maximize what we get out of those. But Sam Darnold, like, he's fine. Like, you know what he probably did? Play himself into a starting role for a little while now because of how he's playing right now. But doesn't he feel like one of those quarterbacks that if you have him, you're kind of riding the high? Like, he seems like people seem like they're happier with what they're getting out of him than what you truly should be. I think you can probably play quarterback another way. Like, he's one of those I think you could realize a profit on, and you could go find somebody to replace him for the rest of the year and then figure it out, but you could probably get a first out of it. You think that's true?
It's crazy. Yeah, because if you just go off perception versus reality, you would think he's a QB1 just based off perception. But
he's not even close. He's
no.
closer to like Bryce, Penix, T-Law than he's
QB23. So he's literally the back end, the worst QB2 you can be. Well, -1. If you can cash out on him, if someone believes he's a low end QB1, you can cash out on him.
I think you could get a first for Darnold.
Then you should do it.
Maybe not the one you want. Maybe not from the team that you're like, oh, this team's going to suck if they trade for Sam Darnold. Maybe not that team. But
then you should.
If you were willing to go out even 2 years, I think you could spam and get a first for Darnold and just figure it out elsewhere. Like, I have Darnold on a team where I've been so glad I've had him, but technically he was my QB3 coming into the year, but my QB2 has been injured a lot. So I've been using Sam Darnold, but that's not the kind of team. Like, I have Josh Allen and Brock Purdy. Thank God I've had Sam Darnold for most of the year because Brock Purdy hasn't been there. But he's not even close to like Brock Purdy from a fantasy perspective. You know what I mean? Like, if I had to pick between both of them healthy, I'd much rather have Brock Purdy. So it kind of feels like Darnold is one of the ones that I don't want to say we're down on him. It's just the temperature feels like it's red hot because he's exceeded your expectations, but he's really not that great.
Yeah, I'm just looking at my Sam Darnold rosters. I'd love to move on from him. Like, okay, so here's one. I have a Jalen Hurts, Sam Darnold, and Tyler Shuck. That's probably now the problem is where we're at in the season. Someone's not going to give me a first probably for Sam Darnold at this point in the season.
Did they lose Michael Penix?
It's true.
Did they lose Justin Fields?
Yeah, that's possible.
Are they rolling out CJ Stroud and he's not playing again? Like, I think
is he out again? I mean,
he's out
probably.
again. Yep.
But that would be the perfect team to do it with, right? Where I have one of those quarterbacks, those other quarterbacks that I just plop in, and I know the name's not as sexy, and it's obviously his long-term outlook or his long-term security isn't there. You don't know what's going to happen with Tyler Shuck after this year. But what am I really gaining outside of security from Sam Darnold that Tyler Shuck doesn't give me? Like, I don't, not a lot.
No, it's not a bad one that you can put it out there, because I do think the perception is he's having a great year and he's having a good NFL year, right? He's on a good team. He's supporting a weapon that everybody loves, but if you really dive into it, he's operating on very thin margins. And the problem is sometimes like success begets more success. Like, guess what the Seahawks are probably going to do? What they've done this year and continue to try to build up their running game, their O-line, you know what I mean? Like, they're not going to go, oh, we're playing this way because we don't want to unleash Sam Darnold. Like, they're not waiting to do that next year. It's working. So they're probably going to stick with it. So there was another one that Drew Lock signed a 2-year deal.
When?
Like, before this year.
Okay.
But he will be their backup next year. I don't think it's going to be Milroe. I've cut Milroe in a league or two for that reason. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I mean, I do want to see it, but I don't. But I think you could probably put like Drew Lock in there for a game, and they could do a lot with what they're doing with Darnold for one game, for 2 games.
I mean, we've seen Drew Lock. We've seen Drew Lock have 1 or 2 good games, so that's not.
But Shane, we've also seen Sam Darnold stink. You have to realize, like, this environment that he's in is suiting him perfectly. I don't know. I'm just not that. I saw Drew Lock and Milroe come up a couple times in this show. I wanted to address those. Let's move on. We have 10 minutes. We spent 50 minutes talking about quarterbacks, but any other players you want to get the temperature on from a dynasty perspective? I know Ashton Genty has been a big topic in voice chat the other day. Like, everything we talked about with the Raiders, right? Like, even if Ashton Genty is everything you wanted him to be, Shane. His role is better than almost any role in the league. There's no competition. There's no threat. Yeah, they mix in another running back every once in a while, but there's zero competition, zero threat. There's hardly any target competition in the offense. But like, you've gotten the peak role. When do I get the peak situation? How long will that take? And are you willing to wait the dynasty price on Ashton Genty for that to flip? Or would you move him today for, like someone said, you could get James Cook plus? Would you do that?
What's the plus? What's the plus?
Second.
Probably not. No, I'll just.
Would you add a late first to Genty to get Devon Achane?
No, I'm not doing that. And I love Achane. You know that.
Interesting. That was one of the deals that came up. Would you add a first to Genty to get Christian McCaffrey in a second?
Can I get Achane in a second and do that instead?
You could try.
Okay, I'd rather do that.
I know you probably didn't see this, dude. I look back at since the start of their careers,
Devon
Achane's been like 10% better than Bijan Robinson. He's literally neck and, I mean, there's 11 elite players in the league since the start of 2023. Those 3 running backs are on the list if you take like the 18-ish points per game or 17.5 as the threshold or higher. But like Achane's up there with, he's not 11th out of that list. He's like 6th or 7th.
Yeah, I love Achane. I mean, you're not telling me anything. I've been telling people for years.
But you wouldn't add a late first in this class to Genty to get Achane down the stretch. You wouldn't do that?
Because
if I inserted Gibbs or Bijan into that mix, you would do that deal.
I don't know. I don't know that I would.
Okay, then your temperature on Genty is not a fever like I think
I am remembering, and I wish he was scoring as much as Bijan Robinson was. I remember being disappointed in Bijan Robinson after his rookie season.
Yep.
And then eventually we got to see what he can do. And this year, even though he had some really, really quiet weeks, he's still the wide receiver, whatever. He's over 20 points per game. Like, I still think Genty can do that. Obviously Pete Carroll needs to go. Geno Smith needs to not be the starting quarterback, and they probably need to get an offensive lineman or 2. That would help.
And some receivers, and like basically they need a new everything, Shane.
An offense would help. Yes.
That's my worry, is that you only have limited time with a running back to get the situation around them going. They probably shouldn't have drafted a running back. I think that's fair to say, right? They probably weren't the team you just plug and play a guy and he's great.
No.
But I don't want to wait another year. There's a lot of pressure for them to fix that by like September of 2026. I don't want to have this conversation next year where you're wondering, why is Genty an RB2? Because even if an RB2 is a better trajectory than others that have busted, I see the Trent Richardson comment in there. Like, someone brought that up. You know the difference? The Browns traded Trent Richardson. Like, they basically said, you can go after 1 year. So I don't think the Raiders are trading Genty, but if he's a top 6 running back, like he basically is, if you said you wouldn't give up a late first in Genty for Achane or for Gibbs or for Bijan.
I mean, if I'm getting the second added back, yeah.
Nothing. It's a 2 for 1. You're giving up the leverage. You got to give up the 2 for 1.
It would depend, right? So if I'm in a league where
you're top 4 and you've gotten there with Genty and you're adding a 20 point per game running back with Gibbs or Achane.
I'm more liable to do it in that circumstance.
Okay.
Yes.
But I mean, that's the type of trade that could appeal. The fact that you even said I'm hesitant means it would at least appeal to the manager you're sending it to, right? Like as soon as they see that in their inbox, they're going to see, ooh, Ashton Genty. If they just turn it around, I'm going to win that deal because I'm getting the leverage on top of it.
Yeah.
But how long do you want to wait? Like, it feels like even if he's RB 15 next year, by not moving him when what is he on KTC? Like still RB 6, RB 5, something.
Is
yeah. I mean,
as we go through this, someone's going to be like, oh, Shane changes his mind too much. It's called talking through things, you douchebags. If you can get, he is QB, Jesus. He's running back 5 still.
And that's because name the 2 or 3 names below him. I think McCaffrey, Saquon are those right below him.
No, it's Hampton, Hendo, Quinshawn.
Hampton's injured. Hendo,
Irving,
I get that.
And then McCaffrey, then Barkley. That's the top 12. So, it's an interesting one. And we keep leaving him for dead, and he keeps not dying. Kyron Williams. Yeah. If you get Kyron Williams in a piece for Ashton Genty, would you do it?
I mean, the comment in the chat was Chase Brown and a mid-first for Genty. For
I mean,
me, like I would do those types of deals. You could probably insert many names into that conversation, and I'd be willing to get that type of return for Genty, especially if I know that mid-first is truly like a flexible mid-first.
It's a process deal, dude, and
Correct.
Chase Brown has been smashing. So like if you're thinking it from the perspective of I need production, well, you're getting production. If you're thinking it from the perspective of I need insulation, well, you're getting it first, so you are getting insulation.
Well, and you know what? Like Chase Brown's another one of those guys. I'm not sure they're just gonna go get a better running back than him.
Yeah.
They have a lot of other things they need to do. Like it does feel like some of these guys that people just don't think will last. All they need to do is last another year or two. And it's not like, here's the thing. It's not like Chase Brown his career will be over after next year. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's still a good running back that will have some role where he hangs around and he's usable. The key is you're getting that mid-first. And what else can you do?
And the problem is just looking at the rosters where you have Genty, if you're already competing, you're a top 4 team. Part of you is telling yourself, well, I've been fine with him already. Like, do I really need to make a move and then possibly miss out on what he could be next year? But I understand the point of if you get Chase Brown, something like that. And there is a lot of work that needs to be done to that offense, like a lot of work that needs to be done. They're obviously going to have a new head coach. They're going to need a new starting quarterback, and they're probably going to need a couple offensive linemen. And that's a big ask in one off season.
It is. I know you would do this, but I'm just going to ask you so everybody can hear it. Rico Dowdle in the same deal as Chase Brown?
I mean, if you're going to do Chase Brown, you got to do Rico Dowdle. There's no difference.
I think the point is, you know what all those guys are? They're as good as the run that they're on right now. And
Rico Dowdle is up to RB20. I'm proud of us, America. I'm proud of us.
Yeah, pretty crazy. Real quick, we have 3 minutes. We talk some running backs, receivers. Any receivers that there's a temperature that you want to take, temperature you want to talk about. I saw a Drake London question in there. Drake London's injured, which makes it a little harder for him. We were looking at Drake London on the Trinity show today, right? I mean, Shane, like I think is it fair to say Drake London's kind of boxed in? Like we looked at his usage this year. This might be the best it gets for him, to be honest. The peak of this year might be the best it ever gets for Drake London. Is that scary to say? People don't like to hear that.
Why? Why would they be? He's wide receiver 3. What are they worried about?
But my point is, what do you do now? Knowing that it probably only goes down and he's injured for potentially a couple weeks. Are you moving Drake London? Would you down tier off Drake London for a Devontae Smith and a first? That type of deal.
You already know I'm looking at my rosters and I'm going, where do I need a win this week? And I'm already looking at the ones with Drake London going, all right, I know I just traded for him 2 weeks ago, but yeah, I'm looking at that. Definitely. Why wouldn't you? You'd be insane not to. You should look every player on your roster. You should look at like that. Can I down tier now? Devonta Smith's a little bit of more of a down tier, but can I down tier to 90% of the production or something like that, and then pick something else up? Can I do that? I always look at that, and I'm looking at that for London. And now that we've talked about Genty, now I'm going to go look at some other leagues and see.
We have Genty on a team, Shane.
We do.
The problem is it's probably everybody that watches our content. So I don't know if they're not going to be excited to give up RB5 prices for Genty. I saw the question in here about Puka. Put that up there.
Yeah.
The answer is no. His usage since he came back from the injury is only the second highest Trinity in the entire league. He's part of maybe the best passing offense. I mean, the Rams environment is just ridiculous right now. So no, I'm not worried about Puka at all. Do you have any worry on Puka?
I'd like for him to play more snaps and run more routes, but whatever. I mean, no, I'm not worried about Puka because
you want him to be what he was early in the year when he had 19 targets a game and was absolutely killing people.
This is the normal ebb and flow of an offense, right? When you have a good. Pains me to say this, when you have a good head coach, offensive mind like Sean McVay, you're not just going to keep running the same stuff out there every week. They're going to stop running so much 13 now that Tyler Higbee's going to go on IR would be my assumption. So no, I'm not worried about Puka even a little bit.
Yep. Yeah. Trust the Trinity. That's one of those where could the volume be higher? Could the plays be higher? Like those things do come into play, but it's not anything that I'm worried about Puka for. If you're worried about him, you're worried about like every single other receiver pretty much.
CeeDee Lamb's getting out targeted by George Pickens. Are we concerned?
Yeah, I mean, you could insert an argument for, I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown since Laporta left. Apparently, Jameson Williams is better than him. I mean, there are ebbs and flows. I did like that comment though, where it's, I was telling you earlier about the 11 elite players.
Yeah.
Puka's right up there with he's not 11th. He's more like 4th. You know what I mean? But you hear the name Puka Nacua and Justin Jefferson, and you could never put them in the same conversation. It's got to be Jefferson, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, well, that was a good show. It was fun taking the temperature of some of these Dynasty players. We could probably do many, many more, but that's what our community is for. Patreon.com/allgas or ddfantasyfootball.com. Jump in there. Once Shane is back from being under the weather, he'll be back in voice chat. I was in voice chat for like 8 hours today. So if you want to talk more of this stuff, talk about players, talk about trades, crunch time, get a roster review. The QR code's on the screen. If you want a roster review, we have one we have to do tomorrow, Shane, reminding you, put it on the calendar. And then Dynasty Deal Show. That's where we answer all trade questions every Friday night, 9:00. Ty, myself, Shane. That's our trade show. You get it as a member of the YouTube channel, $3.99 a month. Click the join button in the description. Final comments from you.
Thanks for bearing with me. My mouth kept drying out. I'm a little dehydrated. So, no, good. It was a fun episode. I like these temperature checks. We're going to have to do these again, not just when I'm recovering from a deathly virus.
Yeah, 3 weeks left. Literally, we're down to the final race. This is the last lap. So do what you can, but if you're not in it, think through each player. I mean, it goes back to advice we talked about at the very beginning of the year. Like, why do you have every player on your team? If your team's out of it, go through your roster. Ask yourself, why do I have this player? What is the direction of their market heading into the offseason? Will there be any demand? Will there be anything that could trigger this player to be talked about? Could there be any buzz, whether it's the situation, players around them, coaching changes, free agency, whatever it might be? And just ask yourself, how can I start positioning my team the best for the offseason? Don't wait until rosters are locked in January and go, man, probably should have picked up a few of those backup quarterbacks. I wish I could get them now. Start doing that today. There's always work to do on your roster. So you have 3 weeks till the fantasy playoffs are here. Hopefully you don't have a trade deadline, but if you do, maximize it. So with that, we'll sign off. Appreciate everybody that tuned in tonight. Good chat, good conversation. Shane, hopefully you feel better and you're ready to go for DDS on Friday. Thanks, everybody.
Let's go.